So good morning.
Good morning, Chair.
Okay, welcome to this session. I hope last time we've been discussed some of the issues of uh, entrepreneurship. Know how to develop a business plan, and we have been discussed different components of business plan, and we also discussed the importance or the benefits of business plan. So once we prepare a business plan, so the next step will be implementing the business idea, which means we have to transform the business idea into a practical business. So the third chapter of the course introduces formation of business. I hope you are familiar with the word formation. Formation related with business, simply formalizations of a business idea into a practical business or a practical enterprise. So in this case, in this chapter, we will discuss the importance of small business or medium business. We'll discuss the different forms of business like partnership, sole proprietorship, and corporation. So this chapter also indicates or highlights the environments of a business. So far, we have been discussed the highlights of entrepreneurship environment. Business run within a different environment, either internal or external environment. So we'll discuss the impacts of external environment on the performance or the operation of internal business or simply internal business environment. So in this case, this chapter will explain the basic concepts of business development. So far, we have been discussed in chapter 2, how to develop a business idea. First, we have to generate a business idea and screen out some of the weak business idea and bring into product development or business development. So in this case, these ideas will be discussed in this chapter. And the other issues of this chapter would be how to set up a small business. How to start. Set up means simply how to establish small business. And we'll see the different factors that makes a small business successful, or we'll discuss different factors that bring down or fail small business. So within this, we'll see also how can we classify the given business as small, medium, or large business. There are different criteria. So this criteria will be discussed in this chapter. It could be a size criteria or it could be economic criteria. So in this case, in Ethiopian case, there are different criteria used to classify the given business for different purpose, like Custom and Revenue Agency of Ethiopia or the so-called Chamber of Commerce classified the Ethiopian business as small, medium, and large, depending on their income or depending on the number of employees and so on. So in this case, we'll see the details of this criteria in Ethiopian case, because different criteria are used in different countries depending on their economic development. Large business in Ethiopia may be small business somewhere else in developed countries. or small business in Ethiopia or medium business in Ethiopia, maybe micro business in developed countries, depending on the economic development of the nation. This criteria depends on the economic development of the nation. So in this case, we will discuss criteria that classify the given business as a small or medium in Ethiopian context, and what makes an organization or what makes small business different from medium or large business. So we'll discuss each concept. So in this case, let's proceed to the first topic of this chapter, which is the concept of small business development. How entrepreneur classified small business. So there are different standards and criteria to classify a given business as a small or medium. So in this case, small business is definitely different from large business because of different criteria, like size criteria. Size includes the number of employees, the number of or the startup capital or the sales turnover. The amount of sales recycling per year could be sales turnover. So in this case, there are different criteria to classify. So this size and standard depends on the country's socio-economic condition, or it could be depending on the economic development. So size criteria includes the number of employees, and startup. If a given business with 6 up to 30 employees, whether it is manufacturing or service industry or business, it could be small business. Number of employees in between 6 up to 30, 30. It could be small business. 30 up to 100, it could be medium business. Business with run with more than 100 employees could be large business in Ethiopian context. Whereas business run with 100 employees in other countries like America and Europe countries, most Europe countries could be small business. So in this case, our criteria to classify the given business as small or medium or large could be number of employees and the startup capital to establish the given business. For small business, the capital could be 50,000 Ethiopian birr, 50,000. If the startup capital extends to 500,000, it could be medium business. So there are a number of criteria, like economic criteria. A business run by owner-manager could be small business. Large business are run by specialized management, whereas small business are run by independent, personalized management. So this could be a criteria to classify the given business as a small and medium enterprise. Just for the sake of this discussion, we can classify Ethiopian business into two major categories: small and medium enterprise, which covers the wide range of industry, the wide range of spectrum or wide range of industry, from service up to manufacturing. So in this context, we'll discuss different factors that bring down or fail different small businesses. Research showed that small and medium business failed within, or 75% of this small and medium business failed within 5 years. Within 5 years, which means after its establishment, only 25% of this business survive in the environment. This is because of different reasons. Some of the possible reasons could be lack of financial management or lack of finance. Lack of finance means small and medium business lack financial resource. And since this small and medium business are run by personalized management, the owner would be the manager. So this owner manager may not have, enough management skill. So in this case, poor operation management could be one reason for the failure of small and medium business. And the other would be, since entrepreneurs start this business as a startup, so they don't have enough experience to run this business. So lack of experience by the owner could be one reason for the failure of small and medium business or enterprise. The other could be poor financial management. Even if this small and medium business, get enough profit, unless we don't have, enough experience or enough knowledge in financial management, how to manage finance, which means how to manage cash, how to manage, check, how to manage different account of the business. Sometimes we may take the incomes of this business as a personal income, and we may withdraw some amount of money without recording as an expense of this small and business enterprise. So in this case, poor financial management. Financial management requires, a sort of skill. So this lack of poor management with regard to finance could be one reason. There are a number of reasons. Sometimes entrepreneurs may start small and medium enterprise without preparing a business plan, without preparing a guideline. So failed to prepare a business plan could be one reason, or unable to prepare a solid business plan could be another reason. So in this case, a number of reasons, contribute for the failure of small and medium enterprise. So we need to avoid these problems so as to survive in this business world. So how can we start? How can we avoid these pitfalls or these problems? Lack of managerial skill can be avoided through learning management. Lack of experience. So you can acquire experience from other organization by choosing the paid employment first. Poor financial management skill, sometimes you have to learn accounting or some training, short-term training with regard to skills of financial management. If the possible failure factor could be, poor business plan, so we have to prepare strong business plan that will guide the overall operation of the business. So in this case, this is some of the reasons why small businesses are failed within 5 years of this establishment. So whether the business is service or manufacturing or a hybrid type of business or combination of business, so it could be established as sole proprietorship or proprietorship, partnership, and corporation. This is a legal form. Once we establish a business, so we have to register as a legal business. Since the country's laws requires every business to be registered as a legal business. So in this case, whenever you registered your business, so you may register as sole proprietorship, sole in a sense single individual. If you establish a business alone, so that could be sole proprietorship. If you establish a business with your partner or friends, either two up to nine individuals, that type of business could be partnership. So within partnership and corporation could be established with some artificial personalities. The corporation is different from the owner. So corporation has legal personality. In the eyes of law, corporation could be a person. What type of person? It's an artificial person, because the owner is a natural person. So in this case, when you establish a business, you can either establish as sole proprietorship, partnership, or corporation. So sole proprietorship is the first types of or legal forms of business. People start to establish a business as sole proprietorship, and later they recognize sole proprietorship has some limitation. The limitation could be if you want to raise huge amount of capital, so a single individual may not raise huge amount of capital. So in this case, they need a collaboration between individuals. That solve the limitation of sole proprietorship, and they can establish partnership. Even partnership has its own limitation. This limitation could be solved by establishing corporation. Even corporation has its own limitation still. So in this case, there are three forms of legal forms of business. So you can either establish your business in this either of the three forms. So each legal form has its own advantage and disadvantage. So when you establish proprietorship, you can share, you can take or you can receive the profit without sharing with the others. That's one of the advantage. If you establish a business with partnership form, so the owner could be 2 up to 9. So the profit will be shared through this 2 up to 9 individuals. Shared profits. Corporation, since it's a separate legal entity, since it's a separate artificial person, so the liability between the corporation and the owner is separate. Whenever the corporation gets risk, so the owner or the shareholder is liable only to the extent of their share. But in sole proprietorship, or proprietorship and partnership, if the business gets bankruptcy, so the risk of the business goes to up to the personal assets of the owner or the creditors. can claim the personal assets of the owner, even if the business, this type of, which means sole proprietorship and partnership is a type of business. So in this case, there are 3 forms of business with different limitations. So this is some of the comparison between proprietorship, partnership, and corporation. You can compare proprietorship, partnership, and corporation from ownership perspective, from liability of owner's perspective, the cost of starting this business, the continuity of this business, would you okay. Arsema, would you please mute your mic? Okay. Okay. Let's proceed. So, proprietorship, partnership, corporation. So we can compare these 3 forms of business from different factor perspective. One of the issue would be ownership. In terms of ownership, proprietorship has individual or a single individual. So the owner would be an individual, single individual. Whereas in partnership, 2 up to 9, according to Ethiopian commercial law. So you can start a business, a form of partnership business, up to 9 employees, up to 9 owners. Whereas in corporation, a minimum number of owner could be 10 in Ethiopian commercial law. And the maximum number, it's unlimited, no limitation on number of stakeholders or owners. So in this case, in terms of liability, proprietorship and partnership has unlimited liability. The liability of the business extends to the personal issues of the owner or the personal assets of the owner. Whereas in corporation, the owner and the corporation has a separate legal, issue. So in this case, the corporation's liability will not go to the personal assets of the owner. The liability is to the extent of their share only, to the extent. So in this case, they do have a separate liability between the corporation and the stakeholders. In terms of the cost of startup, so to establish or to start sole proprietorship or proprietorship, it's easy. Whereas in partnership, it requires an agreement. There is some legal costs and a minor file fee for a trade name. So whenever you establish partnership, the legal cost is a little bit higher than proprietorship. But in case of corporation, the cost is high, the cost. So since corporation is created by the statute or by law, so corporations need, a legal fee. They need different, procedures and government fee. They need filing fee, tax, fee for state in which corporation register to do business. They have to, whenever you start corporation, you have to make some amount of fee for the state you are going to establish that business. So in terms of cost, which is huge. In terms of continuity, when you establish proprietorship, the form of the business could be, the continuity depends on the survival of that individual. If the days of that individual are getting sanity, so the business will dissolve, will not continue. So the continuity of the business, proprietary types of business, depends on the individual's health status. Partnership, this is similar, depending on the partners. If one of the partner is withdraw or get days, so that may be the dissolution of the business. This will not, continue. So in this case, in terms of continuity, corporation is, established on continuity, which means there is no discontinuity if someone withdraws from the business. So there are a number of criteria to compare and contrast these three forms of business. In terms of transferability, so you can completely transfer this business, sole proprietorship business, to somebody else. But in partnership, the transferability is restricted. And there are two types of partner, general partner and limited partner. So if the limited partner wants to transfer to somebody his portion, so this limited partner should ask the permission of the general partner. So this is some of the issues on which this So in terms of capital, when you establish sole proprietorship, it requires less amount of capital, less amount of. In partnership, it requires some amount of higher capital than the proprietorship. So in this case, the corporation requires huge amount of capital raised by selling share, or sometimes the corporation may issue bond. Bond means simply a financial security to lend money from investors. And in terms of management control, so proprietor or a single individual business makes all decisions and can act immediately. So in terms of decision, in proprietorship, the decision is quick. In terms of partnership, so depending on the number of partners, so it's a little bit, the decision requires, late decision, because all member of management or all member of the partners should agree upon, the decision. So in this case, in terms of management control, so proprietorship has full control on every action since the owner is a single individual. In partnership, all general partners have equal control and major rules, the majority rule. So they have to conduct a vote and they have to win those who get 50+1. That's known as majority vote. But limited partners has limited control on the business operation. Their contribution could be in terms of finance and so on. So their decision depends on the general partner. Actually, there are two types of partner in partnership forms of business. The general partner, who is responsible for all activity. Limited partner, responsible to contribute some amount of money. That's their difference. So whereas in corporation, so the decision, it is beyond the owners. Who is responsible to make the decision? The decision is board of directors selected from the stakeholders, or it can be top management like CEO, top management, and so on. So the decision could be very late. It could be sometimes the decision could be 2 times in a year or 3 times in a year, since the board of directors need to meet together at least twice in a year, and so on. So in terms of decision making, which one is more appropriate for proprietorship? So the distribution of profits and loss. If you are sole proprietor or the owner of single business, so you will get all profit. You will receive all profit. Even if the business gets bankruptcy, you have to also receive all risks or all losses. In terms of partnership, you will receive profits, depending on your share, and you will receive also a loss depending on your contribution or share. Sometimes if your share is 30%, so you will receive 30% profit or 30% loss, and the other could also take 70% loss or 70% profits. So in terms of corporation, you will receive depending on your share, depending on the number of share. So you will receive, in terms of dividend. I hope you may be familiar with dividend. This amount of money paid by the corporation for the shareholders. Attractiveness in terms of raising capital, the most attractive forms of business is corporation. The most attractive. So this is the comparison of these three forms of business. So you have to know here, these forms of business could be either in service organization, manufacturing organization, either of the two operation could be. So let's proceed to the definitions of small business or small and medium enterprise, and you will see the importance. What the contributions of this small and medium business towards the economic development of the country. So we'll define what's small business. What do you mean by small business? So this definition depends on the criteria. Depends on the criteria. So to define this small business, there are different criteria. So some of the criteria could be size, and the other could be economic criteria. This economic criteria would be number of employees and the amount of startup capital. In some cases, the sales turnover could be a criteria to define small business. And this size criteria includes number of employees, the number of employee, the sales volume, how much the business sells within a year, and the value of the sales turnover, the asset size, volume of deposit, total capital investment, or the total volume of production or value of production, or a combination of this could be a criteria to define a given business as a small, medium, or large business. So even though this criteria is important, so this may not be, which means the size criteria may not reveal the true nature of the business. So in this case, we need additional criteria to classify a given business, which is known as the economic criteria. So depending on the purpose of the classification, we may use number of employee or startup or sales volume. In Ethiopian case, most of the time we use number of employees and the sales turnover, as well as the capital startup or startup capital. So in addition to this criteria, financing of the business supplied by one individual and small group, only in rare case it could be more than 15 or 20 owners. It could be. So in this case, we can say the given business would be small business, or generally business running its operation not more than 20. 30 employees could be small business. There are some exceptions, like high-tech company could not be, classified as a small or large or medium, depending on the number of employees. Some consultancy business could be large business, but their employee may not be, exceed 30. It could be less than 30. But this number of employees may not be a true measure of this high-tech company or consultancy firms. So in this case, we need to use other criteria like economic or control criteria. Small business, there can be defined in terms of market share. Their individual market share could be insignificant, which means very few or small. And in terms of management, small businesses are independent from the control of different external factors. They are independent. And the manager could be personalized manager, not professional manager. That's known as owner manager. And geographical area of operation, most of the time small business operate locally, except their marketing function. Their marketing function could be involved in export. So in this case, small business means a business that satisfies this criteria, the size criteria and the control criteria. So market share, the characteristics of a small firm share of a market is not large enough to enable it to influence the price. So in this case, small business flourish everywhere, but they are not influencing their customers with price because they are insignificant to influence the market in terms of market share. Their market share could be few. Independence means the owner has control over the business himself or herself. No one will control his business or her business. That could be, independence. Personalized management, the owner is responsible to all major decision-making process, like hiring. Human resource function could be one of their function. The owner will perform human resource function, finance function, purchasing function, everything could be under the owner's decision. So this could be personalized management. But in large business, HR department is responsible for HR manager. The production function of large business could be the responsibility of a production manager. The finance part of large business could be the financial manager's responsibility. But in small business, all this function, HR function, finance function, marketing function, production operation function could be run by only one individual under the decision of this individual. Technologically, this small business is labor intensive instead of technology or capital intensive. So in this case, small business are most of the time labor oriented, not machine oriented or technology oriented. The other could be area of operation most of the time, except their marketing function. Their operation could be local. So this is some of the definitions of small business. Small business is a business run with less than 30 employees with 50,000 initial capital, and area of operation is locally with a labor intensive and personalized management could be small business. So apart from this definition, they provide different importance or benefit to the economy. different benefits. Small and medium business, since it covers a wide spectrum of the industry, it ranges from the tourism, service, up to manufacturing. So they provide large employment for the society than large business. So in our country, if you compare large business with small business collectively provide huge amount of opportunity for the society than large business. And the other would be economic use of capital. Economically, use of capital. Small business, relatively use their capital effectively and efficiently. So there is no waste in small business. So since they are, small in terms of scope, in terms of operation, in terms of manpower and so on, so they are using economically. Economically means effectively and efficiently their capital or their resources than other large businesses as compared to. So small business also provide balance of regional development, removing imbalance between regions. So this is a kind of small business play political benefit to the region, which means you can balance two regions by establishing small business in those regions. The region, sometimes you can classify the country as urban and rural. Why people move from rural area to urban area? Why? This is because of better life and searching for better life. This could be maintained by creating job opportunity in those regions. So in this case, you can make a balance between rural and urban area. We can take these two regions by creating small business and medium business everywhere, and we can balance the regional movement or the regional development.
በትምህርት ከፍ ብሎ መብረር ይቻላል። ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ከከፍተኛ ትምህርት አግባብነትና ጥራት ኤጀንሲ ሙሉ ዕውቅናን ባገኘንባቸው በማስተርስ ዲግሪ ኤምቢኤ በስትራቴጂክ ማኔጅመንት፣ ኤምቢኤ በባንኪንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ ኤምቢኤ በቢዝነስ ሊደርሺፕ፣ ኤምቢኤ በሪስክና ኢንሹራንስ፣ ኤምኤስሲ በኢንተርናሽናል ትሬድ እና ኢኮኖሚክስ ዘርፎች በእውቀት ለመቅረጽ የበቁ ፕሮፌሰሮቻችን አረንጓዴ መብራታቸውን አብርተዋል። በነገራችን ላይ በኬንያ ሀገር ከሚገኙ ስመጥር ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች በሚመጡ ፕሮፌሰሮች የትኩረት መስክ ትምህርቶቹ መሰጠታቸው ልዩ ያደርገናል። በምርጥ የትምህርት ስርዓት የተገነባው ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ በመጀመሪያ ዲግሪ በአቪዬሽን ማኔጅመንት፣ በሆቴል ማኔጅመንት፣ በአካውንቲንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ በማርኬቲንግ ማኔጅመንት አስተማማኝ ትምህርት ይገቢውና ራስዎንና ሀገሮን ይለውጡ። አድራሻ 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
So some of the benefits of small business could be, ensuring equitable distribution of wealth among the state or among the citizens. So you can run small business as compared with large business. Someone may establish large business and you may start small business. So you are using the country's wealth equitably, not equally. So in this case, small business also play ensuring equitable wealth distribution and decentralization of the economic power. Some research showed that 90% of the country's resource owned by 10% of the world citizens of the world. And the remaining 90% of the world's population own 10% of the resources of the world. So to ensure the equitable utilization of these wells, so we can establish small business everywhere. So in addition to ensuring equitable wealth distribution, small business play unregulated growth of large scale industry and concentration of economies. So they can take the power of this large business with this small business. So in this case, unregulated growth of large business will be maintained by creating small business. As you know, monopoly companies nowadays, are regulated with creating a small business. They can bring some competition between. So in this case, small business is important to regulate unregulated growth of large business, to bring down unregulated growth of large business. And the other important role of small business will be dispersal over wide areas. You can establish everywhere small business, since they require small amount of employees, small amount of capital, and so on. So in this case, you can play, decentralization of, economic power from the center to the remote areas. You can make a dispersion. So in this case, small business will play this type of role in terms of dispersing or reach in remote areas. On the other, higher standard of living. Small business, why people engaged in small business? To uplift their living standard, to bring higher the national income. So the country's income is, increased as a result of, the increment of small business. So small business will create, some value to the nation. So in this case, the national GDP will increase. The national GDP or the country's GDP will increase. The national per capita income, the nation per capita income will increase. Per capita income, which means the earn per individual. If that will, increase, the living standard of that individual will also increase the living standard. So in this case, small business will increase the living standards of the country's citizen or the nation at all. And small business, since their area of operation is domestic or local oriented, so they can mobilize all local resources. You can use local resources through small business, not as large business, not with large business. So small business will play in mobilizing the country's local resource or the nation's resource. And the other importance would be innovative and productive. Simply, small business will disseminate technology throughout the country, small business. So they can play adoption and dissemination of technologies. So you can increase the country's innovation and technology through small business, not in large business. There are a number of contribution. So that's why every government of the every government of the world promote small business, promote entrepreneurship. Whenever you promote entrepreneurship, and ultimately you will create small enterprise. So this enterprise will bring a number of benefits or play a number of roles. In this case, we can also minimize dependency on foreign capital, or we can minimize import. We can promote export. If you do have small business, if a number of small businesses flourished in a country, so the country is less dependent on foreign countries in terms of getting goods and services. So in this case, small business will play, minimizing the dependency of the country from the foreign dependency. Small business also promotes self-employment. One of the major objectives of promoting entrepreneurship is creating self-employment. So this self-employment is promoted through creating small businesses. Who is supposed to create small business? Entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs is the person, entrepreneurship is the process, and ultimately the process will create enterprise. This enterprise is most of the time small and medium. This is a number of lists, but this is not exhaustive list. This is not exhaustive. So there are a number of benefits of creating small business. Protection of environment. You can protect your environment by creating a small business. So you can minimize environmental pollution by creating a small business. Shorter gestation period. So in different countries, if there are large investment, the implementation period is so large. Whereas in small, if you invest in small business, so the investment or the execution of the investment project is relatively short. So within a short period of time, you can recoup the investment return. So in this case, small investment in small business has a short period of reinvestment. Facilitate development of large enterprise. So every large enterprise, starts most of the time from small or upgraded from small enterprises or small business. Small business upgraded to medium business, medium business upgraded to large business. So small business will facilitate the development of large business. So using small business, you can take individual taste, individual fashion, and personalized service. So small business will provide individual service. It can be door-to-door service or so on. But large business may not provide, personalized service. And this could be more employment creation, of course, whenever there is large number of small business, small and medium business, so they can provide more opportunity for job creation. So this is some of the benefits of small business, the benefit. So that's why everywhere government or non-government organization promote entrepreneurship to create small business. That's the benefits. So how can we set up or how can we establish this small business? How? This is the way, or this is the mechanism. So there are different steps to start a small business. As we have seen last time, first you have to identify the opportunities, evaluate the opportunity. So this is simply entrepreneurial process. So entrepreneurial process starts with identification of opportunities. So once we identify this opportunity, we have to evaluate the opportunity, and finally we have to implement. So the implementation could be formation of a business. From this case, we'll see some of the summarized steps of how to create small business. Since small business is, promote the formation of large business, so this step could be useful for, large business setup. So in this case, the first step is identification of opportunities. So once we identify the opportunities, so we have to analyze the opportunity. So the analysis could be in terms of reward, in terms of risk, in terms of availability of raw materials, availability of customers, and so on. So once we analyze, so we have to select the best opportunity among different opportunities. And finally, implement this business. The implementation stage of the business could be launching and developing the enterprise. This is the three best process to establish any small business. This could be important to establish large business. So further, we can classify this stage as discovery stage. Analysis and selection of opportunity could be evaluation stage. Launching and developing an enterprise stage could be implementation stage. This is simply we are playing a linguistic difference, or we are playing a language difference. Identification of opportunity means discovering opportunity. Analysis and selection of opportunity means simply evaluation of opportunity. Launching and developing enterprise means simply implementation. This could be further classified into the first stage could be discovery or discovering your entrepreneurial potential, and the other could be identification of a problem and the potential solution for that problem. This stage could be a discovery stage. Evaluation involves you have to evaluate the idea and investigate and gathering resources for this evaluation. Finally, formulating the enterprise to create a value, implementing the entrepreneurial stage, strategy, and planning the future. Once you implement your enterprise, so the next could be managing the growth, the early growth, the maturity growth, and finally you have to maintain the decline stage or the final stage of a business. So the business could survive for the next stage, or it could be failed in that stage. So in this case, depending on the life cycle of the business, so you can introduce different strategy. That strategy could be entrepreneurial strategy. This could be sometimes rejuvenating strategy, which means expansion strategy, or harvesting strategy. There are, or sometimes exit strategy it could be. So depending on the stage of your business, so you can follow a different strategy. So this stage would be, discussed in detail in the last chapter of the course, this one. So this is some of the steps in establishing small business. In setup means simply establish a small business, starting from discovery of your potential up to planning the future. So you have to go through this 7 stage while you are establishing small business. So when you plan the future, since we are not sure about what will happen in the future about our business, first we have to make environmental analysis. This environmental analysis, simply we have to know what will happen in the future with regard to the external factors. And this external factor could be macro factor. Macro in a sense, large. Micro, which means small. So macro, which means, if you remember in environmental analysis, the political, legal, economic, social, technological, and the demographic factors are macro factors. So this macro factor consists the political. So we have to study the political situation of the country before starting any business. Do the political situation is stable or not? So in this case, you have to make some analysis. You have to know the advancement of technologies within the country, advancement. That's known as technological factor or macro factor. You have to know the society's attitude, the society's culture as well. You have to know different legal factors. There are different legal laws, or different laws are ratified within the country. Business law, or tax law, or environmental law, and so on. So in this case, you have to study these all factors. This is known as the pest factor, the pest. Pest in a sense, simply political, legal, social, economic factors. Once we study, so we can identify the opportunities and the threats of the environment. Opportunity means favorable condition towards our business. A threat could be unfavorable condition or situation towards our business. Once we understood the favorable and unfavorable circumstance of the environment, so we have to go into a smaller study, which is sectoral study, in which sector we are going to start our business. There are different sectors in our our economy or our country. Sectoral analysis or manufacturing, there are different areas, sectoral areas. Sector in a sense, cluster of areas. So in this cluster, there are manufacturing cluster, service cluster, agricultural cluster. There are a number of clusters or sectors. So which sector is more profitable than the other? We have to make some analysis with regard to the industry. So in this case, we can understand the future trends of each sector. So we have to select the best sector with attractive feature in the future. Attractive. So in this case, we can make this analysis. So this analysis most of the time is known as SWOT analysis. SWOT, in a sense, the first S stands for strengths, W stands for weakness, O stands for opportunity, T stands for a threat. So in this case, when we conduct this analysis, what's our strength, what's our weakness? So as a business or as an entrepreneur, we have to.
ሰር ይቅርታ ተማሪዎች አድሚን አይደል
Yes.
ስልክ እያስቸገራቸው ስለሆነ ወጥተው ነውና አድሚናቸው ይቅርታ
Okay, admission. Nice admit. Sorry. So in this case, once you conduct the sectoral analysis, the next would be SWOT analysis. You have to determine your weakness, strengths, and what's the available opportunity outside, and what the threats outside. So in this case, you have to conduct this analysis and build on your strengths and minimize the weakness of your business, as well as you have to use the opportunity by avoiding the threats. So based on this, you can develop a different strategy to run your business. So this is some of the analysis. Macro environmental analysis, which includes political, legal, socio-economic, demographic, and technological analysis. You have to know the larger factors. So within this, so you can understand opportunity and the threat. So sectoral analysis, you have to cluster the economy into different sectors. There are different sectors. So among the different sectors, you have to identify the feasible sector or promising sector. So in addition to this, you have to conduct this SWOT analysis. So once you understood the opportunity, threat, and strengths, as well as your weakness, so you have to study what type of product or service you are going to provide within your business. So this analysis is, the last analysis. So once you analyze the product and the service, so we can provide to the customers based on the features of the product or the features of the service. So entrepreneurs should always use opportunity within their environment and by capitalizing their strengths and their competency largely, which means their skill, knowledge, and experience. So based on their experience or based on their competency and the opportunity provided by external environment, they can provide compatible product to the customer need, compatible. So far, we have been discussed the benefit or the role of small business. Even if small business provide a lot of benefit to the society. So there are different factors. What that makes, this small business, fail. There are different petty failures. So in this case, let's identify some of the petty fail. The petty fail means simply a factor that makes small business ungrow or fail within the business environment. So different writers identified different factors. And what is the business failurity? Failurity, in a sense, unable to, profitable, unable to sustain in the economy, get bankruptcy. That's a voluntary withdrawal from the business with a financial loss, could be a business failure. So from your understanding, business failure, what does mean business failure? From your understanding, anyone who can respond to this in-text question. What does mean business failure? Anyone?
Hello, Teja.
Yes, yes. Go on. Okay. So business failure means simply a closure, a foreclosure of a business because of bankruptcy. Or you can simply a volunteer withdraw from the business environment with a financial loss could be a business failure. So this is because of different factors. So the cause of a business failure could be, this is some of the major, but there are a number of factors mentioned. If you read different materials, you can read more factors. So some of the factors could be inadequate management. Inadequate means, management is the process of planning, organizing, leading, controlling, and decision making. Management, by its definition, means simply the process of planning, organizing, leading, controlling, and decision making. So, business management unable to make planning, organizing, leading, and so on. So, unable to make this different function could be inadequate management. Inadequate. Lack of experience. One of the function of a manager is playing as HR manager. Be able to motivate others to do something. Be able to. So manager serve as a leader, unable to make or unable to motivate employees to do an extraordinary work. So that could be a failure factor. So inadequate management means unable to apply a management function, unable to. There are a number of management functions. I hope you may be familiar with, some of the major functions of management. There are different managerial skills, planning skill, human skill, technical skill. Unable to apply this managerial skill could be inadequate management. So in this case, there are a number of factors that make a business fail. So the other could be inadequate finance. Small business suffer from lack of liquid finance or adequate finance. Adequate, which means enough finance. Lack of this finance, will make this business failure, because finance is the blood life of any organization, the blood life. So in this case, lack of finance or inadequate finance makes unable to purchase or buy a proper product, raw material, unable to make a payment for their supplier, unable to make payment for their employees and so on. This will bring this business fail. So the first would be inadequate management, inadequate finance, and the other could be other common problem could be negligence, neglect. Sometimes owner of small business could be negligent in terms of managing the enterprise. Negligence. Negligence. Sometimes you may withdraw some amount of money from your enterprise without recording as an expense. That's negligence of the owner. So this could be, deteriorating the status of your small business. So this will bring, this business failure. And the other would be fraud. Fraud, this is simply, you can say shoplifting. Shoplifting or theft could be one of the major reasons for the failure of small business. Disaster, like unforeseen happening, disaster, natural disaster. Sometimes disaster could be robbery, or it could be strike, or sometimes disaster could be a flood, or sometimes there are different natural catastrophe. This sometimes may destroy the property of small business. If this disaster destroy the property of small business, it's difficult to withstand, this situation. So in this case, small business will fail or get closed. So this is some of the difference. So you can compare termination and failure of a business. This is a little bit different. Termination occurs when the business no longer exists for any reason. Termination. The business will not exist longer for any reason. It could be for, failure, or it could be other reason. Sometimes, even if the business is profitable, the owner may decide to terminate the business. So in this case, you can terminate your business because of any reason. It could be a legal reason. Sometimes a profitable business maybe cease to exist or no longer exist because of a legal action. Because of course, some business maybe decide to dissolve it or terminate. But a failure occurs when a business closes with a financial loss or creditor. So you have to differentiate termination with failure. Failure because of loss, because of financial loss. Termination because of any other reason, because of other reason. So this is some of the difference. So we can say a business is terminated because of the court case, but you can say a business is failed because of a court case. You can't say. So you say the business is failed, the reason is a financial loss. If the business is terminated because of other reason. So this is some of the difference. Is there anyone who has some ambiguity on these two terminologies? Because they are important. Anyone? Okay. So there are different mistakes that leads to business failure. These mistakes could be common mistake, or this could be by the owner or by the employees. It could be. So in this case, one of the mistakes for the failure of the business is starting the business without a business plan. Without a business plan. This is a mistake. Sometimes because of different reasons, entrepreneurs may not start their business with a business plan. They assume that they understood the whole situation of the business. So in this case, this is a mistake of entrepreneurs. So this could lead to a business for failure. And the other major mistake for a business that bring to failure is inaccurate estimation of cash flow and capital requirement. Sometimes if you wrongly estimate the financial flow or the cash flow of the business, if you estimate the cash flow it could be outflow or it can be inflow. So if you wrongly estimate this definitely will bring to business failure. This is because of some estimation. So I think this is some of the reflection. For instance, starting a business does involve risk, but the assumption of the risk is part of the life. You are wrongly, assuming the risk is the part of the life, but it should be, separate from the life. So you have to understand the risk of the business. So the risk of the business is not the part of your life risk. So in this case, so you have to read the entire reflection, and you can understand how entrepreneurs make a mistake and fail their business. So apart from different factors that bring failure, so we have to see different factors that promote small business or bring a success for that business. So what factors that bring a small business successful? Just successful business means simply promoted, satisfy their customer, and meet the entrepreneur's objectives. As the success. Success depends on the type of objectives. If your objective is satisfying your customers, so the parameter could be satisfaction. If your objective is accumulating huge amount of financial income, so that could be income or financial income or profit could be your objective. So in this case, what makes a given business be successful? So we'll discuss those factors. What makes a given business successful? So in this case, one of the major factors that contribute for the success of the business could be conducive environment. Conducive in a sense, the working environment is favorable for the business. Favorable. Now, what does mean favorable condition? Successful small business do not emerge and thereafter survive and grow unless the environment is conducive. So in this case, business will not survive or emerge without a conducive environment. As we have seen in macro analysis, first you have to see the political environment. The political environment should be stable. So stable political environment is a conducive for the success of the business. In terms of economic situation, the country's economy, it could be either in growth stage or in sometimes depressed stage. So for the success of small and medium business, the country's economy is important. So in terms of economy, it should be in prosperous or growth stages, not a conducive environment. technological environment, it could be. The advancement of the technology, or if our small business adapts the advancement of technology, or if the advancement of technology is appropriate for our business, so it could be favorable condition. Social cultural factor, it's obvious. If the society's attitude towards our business, the society's culture towards our business is positive, so it's a conducive environment. So whenever you start small business, first you have to know the environment is conducive or hostile. If the environment is hostile, which is unfavorable, so you have to reject your business, or you have to postpone until the environment is conducive. So the other condition could be adequate credit assistance. One of the major reason for the failure of small business is inadequate finance. So inadequate finance, since it is the failure factor, avoiding this factor could be a success. So how can we avoid inadequate finance? So by providing credit assistance. Credit means simply provide some amount of money for startup or for operational activities. So this financial institution could be banks, microfinance institution, credit and saving association, and so on. So to avoid the failure of a small business, we have to provide financial support. This financial support is known as credit assistance. So next we'll see the details of these factors: markets and marketing supports. This is known as working premises. So in this case, we'll discuss these things next time. So any question, any suggestion, any ambiguity, you're welcome.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Teacher, like በትምህርት ምናምን ሳይሆን ሌክቸር ላይ ነው ማለት ነው። ውጭ ብለን ስለምንማር ነው like the whole 2 ሰዓቱን ሁሉ እንደዚሁ አንድ ሰው እያወራ ብቻ መማር በጣም ይከብዳል እና ወይ እኛን ለማሳተፍ ሞክር ወይ ደግሞ ብሬክ ምናምን ስጠን እንጂ ይከብዳል።
ኦኬ ያው እንትን ለማድረግ ነው ትንሽ ኮርሱ ሰፋ ስለሚል እነዚህኞቹ ቻፕተሮችን እንትን ለማድረግና ኔክስት ማርኬቲንግ ላይ የሚቀጥለው ቻፕተር በብዛት ዲስከሽን ነው የሚሆነው። እነዚህ ሞር ኦፍ ቲዮሬቲካል ስለሆኑ ነው። I will take your suggestion.
At some point break ብትሰጠን ራሱ ደስ ይላል።
Okay, so why don't you tell me, give me a break?
We have tried teacher, chat ላይ ብዙ ነው ያለው።
Chat, it's more than 200. So it's difficult to read or chat, or I would rather stop teaching and reading the comment.
እሺ ከዚህ በኋላ እንደዛ እናደርጋለን።
እንደ ባይዘው እንትን ማድረግ ይችላል። ሪአክሽን አለው። ሪአክሽኑን ብትነኩ እዛ ላይ እንትን አደርጋለሁ ማቆም ይችላል። ካልሆነ ደግሞ በመሃል ፖዝ አድርጋችሁ ማስቆምኩት ይችላልላችሁ። ማይካችሁን ቅድም ነበር ልጆች አላጠፉ ሲሉ ሚውት ያደረኩባቸው ሙሉ ለሙሉ እንጂ እንትን ማድረግ ይቻላል። በመሃል ገብታችሁ ብሬክ ይቻላል። እሺ
Hello, teacher.
Yes.
And medium business and large business in Ethiopian business, what's the difference between medium business and large business based on Ethiopian?
Yeah, actually, the classification is based on the employees and based on the income, which means the sales turnover, the amount of sales. So, medium business, those business, their annual sales turnover is less than 2.5 million. 2.5 million. And the number of employees less than 100. Less than 100. Whereas large business is a business with their annual sales turnover is more than 2.5 million and the number of employees more than 100 in Ethiopian case.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mister
Yes. አሁኑ ጥያቄ ካላችሁ ነው ከሌላችሁ መውጣት ትችላላችሁ። እዚህ ላይ ነው ያለነው። ኔክስት እዚህ ጋር እንቀጥላለን። አሜን። ሶስተኛ
Sure. The three form of business የምላቸው ፓርትነርሺፕ እና ፕሮፕራይተርሺፕ እና ኮርፖሬሽን የምላቸው ትንሽ ክልል ታደርግልኝ ደስ ይለኛል።
ኦኬ ፕሮፕራይተርሺፕ ማለት በአንድ ሰው የሚመሰረት ቢዝነስ ማለት ነው። ባለቤቱ አንድ ሲንግል ኢንዲቪጁዋል ሲንግል ኦነር ኢንዲቪጁዋል። እነዛ ግን ፓርትነርሺፕ ግን ከሁለት ሰው እስከ 9 ሰው ይላል የኢትዮጵያ ኮመርሻል ሎ እስከ 9 ሰው በኢትዮጵያ ማድረግ የሚቻለው። ኮርፖሬሽን ከ10 ሰው ጀምሮ መጨረሻ የለውም። አንድ ሊሚት 10,000 ሊሆን ይችላል 20,000 ሊሆን ይችላል። አሁን የምታያቸው ባንኮች ምናምን አሉ አይደለ ኮርፖሬሽን። ስለዚህ አሁን ሚኒመም ከ10 ሰው ጀምሮ እስከ ማክሲመሙ አይታወቅም ምን ያህል ሰው ሊሆን 10,000 ሊሆን ይችላል 20,000 ሊሆን ይችላል 15,000 ሰው ሊሆን ይችላል። ስለዚህ ሼር ሆልደር ይባላል ማለት ነው።
ይቻላል። አንድ ጥያቄ አለኝ እዚህ ጋር ወይ ከስሙ ጋር ነው እኔ ግራ የሚገባኝ ቴሌ ኮሙኒኬሽን ኮርፖሬሽን የሚባለው የኛው ሲንግል እንትን ነው እንዴት ነው?
ሁለት አይነት እንትኖች አሉ ፕራይቬት ኮርፖሬሽን እና ገቨርንመንት ኮርፖሬሽን የሚባሉ።
ኦኬ
ለምሳሌ የፕራይቬት ሲሆን ሼር ሆልደር ይባላሉ። የኢትዮጵያ ኮርፖሬሽን ግን ባለቤቱ ማን ነው?
ገቨርንመንት
ራሳችን ማለት እኛ
ራሳችን የቴሌኮም
በቃ አጠቃላይ አሁን እንግዲህ ያው በመጣው እንትን ካላለ 110 ሚሊዮን የሚሆነው የኢትዮጵያ ሕዝብ ባለ ሀብት ነው ማለት ነው። የኮርፖሬሽን የሕዝብ ማለት
እሺ ካልከሽ
ልዩነት መፍጠር ዓላማችን ነው። ዓለም አቀፍ ተወዳዳሪ መሆን አለባችሁ። የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ጥራትና ደረጃውን የጠበቀ ስልጠና በመስጠት ብቁ ዜጋ እያፈራን ነው። በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን፣ በበረራ መስተንግዶ፣ በቲኬቲንግና ሪዘርቬሽን፣ በሆቴልና ቱሪዝም ሙያዎች አሰልጥነን ተወዳዳሪ እናደርጎታለን። ኮሌጃችን ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና ከእንግሊዙ አይሲኤም ጋር በመተባበር ዓለም አቀፍ ዕውቅና ያለው ስልጠና እየሰጠ ይገኛል። በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን፣ በበረራ መስተንግዶ የምንሰጣቸው ስልጠና ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና አለው። አድራሻ ከጎላጉል ታወር 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።